All right, so again, welcome. This is Google Chrome Apps and Extensions 101, and we're going to start off today by covering the agenda. I'm going to talk about just some Chrome setup, the differences between apps and extensions, then just basic navigation and how to actually install extensions, and then I'm going to give you suggestions for really specific extensions for efficiency and then for accessibility. So, as you might guess, it's important to work within Chrome for Chrome apps and extensions. So if you are not already logged into your Chrome browser, make sure you do that. And I would just recommend that just as best practice for working with anything Google related. It makes things a lot easier. And you want to ensure that you're in your CC Reset G Suite account and not like your personal account or a different account that's not your work account. That way, everything that you add to your Chrome browser, whether it's bookmarks or extensions, kind of follows you anytime you sign in with this account. Okay, so let's talk about the differences between apps and extensions. So what exactly is a Chrome app? It's basically this like standalone application that does the same kind of thing that a website would, but it's kind of it's driven within your browser. And actually, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on Chrome apps because Google is actually phasing them out starting in March. So I kind of wanted to use this opportunity just to mention that that is the case. And I hear that June is going to be the time that they're going to stop supporting Chrome apps. So if you have a Chromebook, for example, you would click the little launcher and then it would take you here and you could search for your apps, or you could go to the Chrome web store to find the apps. But again, I'm not going to spend time on this today since they're not going to be supported, well, next week, which is June. So let's focus on extensions. So what exactly are they? They're basically like mini little software programs that modify and enhance the different functions you're doing within your browser. And you don't really see them like an app or a website. You see them up above in your URL, but you might not actually see them working the way you might think. So think of them as like little mini programs that really assist in efficiency and can just help you do different tasks. So let's talk about where exactly they live and how to navigate extensions. So if I were to go to my Chrome browser, so I'm going to pop out of this real quick, you'll notice up at the top here that I have several extensions, like probably too many extensions. But for today's purposes, I wanted to give you some demonstration and how to use them and how to navigate them. So you'll notice that like my URL bar is very, very short right here because I have so many extensions. And even if I click on the little 3 dots here, I've got even more extensions. So yes, I have a lot. Now, if I wanted my URL bar to be a little bit longer, I could actually just hover over between the bookmark star and the first extension and just drag, and you'll notice that my URL bar gets bigger. So I can do that, and then you'll probably wondering, okay, where are these going? Well, if I click the 3 dots, they're all living here. So I typically prefer to have like my high flyers be kind of at the front. So if I wanted to, reorder them, I just simply drag and drop, and that's how you reorder your extensions that have already been enabled within your browser. So let's additionally talk about some of the management of extensions, and then I'll get into actually how to add extensions to your Chrome browser. So if I click the 3 dots and I go to More Tools and I click Extensions, it's going to take me to all of the extensions that are already enabled within my browser. So you'll notice that maybe you already have some extensions on here, or maybe you haven't really added them and gotten into extensions. So this may or may not be a lengthy list such as mine. In addition, you'll notice when you look at each individual app, some of them are turned on and some of them are turned off, right? So just because I have an app here does not necessarily mean it's turned on, or you can visually see it up here, right? So right now, for example, I have this extension turned off because it doesn't have the little blue dot. But if I were to click that, it would turn it on. In addition, I can permanently remove the extension by just clicking remove, or I can go to details to see the specifics. What is that extension again? And so it'll give me the description and all of those details. So again, I can go through and a lot of times what I'll do is, my recommendation is to not have as many extensions as I have on right now. It could potentially slow down some of the functions of your Chrome browser. So what I often go through is just kind of say, okay, do I really use this extension that frequently? If I do, I keep it on. If I don't, I turn it off. That doesn't mean I'm deleting it. I'm just saying it doesn't need to be running in the background all the time. I'm going to turn it off just to help my efficiency. So that's how to manage your extensions. This is probably the most clear way to do it, but I'll show you a couple of other ways. There's actually an extension that quickly allows you to turn on and turn off and manage your extensions. That's called Extensity, so I'll show you that in a second as well. Yep, I think that's everything for extensions. Okay, so I'm going to jump back into my presentation here. And talked about how to navigate. Okay, so let's talk about this Chrome Web Store. You've probably heard of it, or maybe you've even seen it. But the Chrome Web Store is where you can, purchase, not really purchase, but you can add apps and extensions to your Chrome. So I would recommend actually either making the Chrome Web Store a bookmark within your Chrome, or you could actually go and use, you could add, it's called the Chrome Web Store shortcut. It's actually an extension that lets you basically create a shortcut to get to the Chrome Web Store. So I'll walk you through what that looks like so you can understand how to add an extension. So when I click on this, it's going to take me to this extension. But if I didn't go to the shortcut, let me just show you what the Chrome Web Store looks like first. You could also just simply type in like Chrome Web Store and it will pop up this way as well. So up on the left-hand side, you can search the store. So search by keyword. And notice that this blue is highlighting extensions, so that's telling you you're filtering on specifically extensions. And you can search by category, by ratings, features, all different kinds of things. So you just simply type in whatever it is you're looking for. I'm looking for a drive extension. And now it's going to show me all different kinds of extensions related. Some are going to be really great and some are going to be like totally not what I'm looking for. So, you might want to consider looking at the ratings. And, if something's specifically created by a reputable company such as Google, you might give it a little bit more credibility. If you notice, some of these extensions say rate it, and some of them say add to Chrome. If you go to the Chrome Web Store and you're searching for extensions and you see a rate it, that means that extension is actually already added to your Chrome. So you don't have to add it, you just have to play with it. Now, if you don't have the extension already, it's going to give you the option to say add to Chrome. Okay, so let's walk through what that looks like using the actual Chrome Web Store shortcut. So if I click on that extension, and again, if you go into the presentation, you can follow along right with me by clicking that link, and it'll take you directly to this Chrome Web Store shortcut within the store. And then I'm going to click the blue Add to Chrome. And it's going to say, do you want to add this shortcut? I say, yes, add extension. And then it's going to tell me, yep, it's been added. You just need to click this icon to access it. And it's, again, to manage your extensions by clicking extensions in the tools menu that I showed you before. Now, sometimes you'll add extensions and it will ask for more, like, do I have permission to access your whatever it is that they need? And so, again, as long as it's a reputable extension and you're comfortable with that, you can go ahead and enable those features. So now, because I have so many extensions, you're probably thinking, well, where did that extension go? I don't see the little icon. Well, if I click the three dots, I will see that it's living here. Well, this might actually be a frequent flyer. So maybe I'm going to drag and put it here so that now anytime I want to go to the Chrome Web Store without having to type it in the URL or navigate it in a different way, I just simply click on the extension and boom, takes me right to the Chrome Web Store. So I think this is probably the first extension if you don't have any extensions added yet, maybe this is the first one because now this is sort of the gatekeeper of all the extensions that you might want to add to your Chrome. Okay. Now let's talk about specific extensions. And I've grouped them into sort of two categories. I thought for this particular crowd, I think efficiency is something that everybody's always looking to improve upon for anything work-related, right? Or even not work-related. Everybody likes something to help them with efficiency. And then the second category I included were extensions that are specific to accessibility, which I thought maybe this crowd would be interested in. So the first extension I'm going to show you is called Extensity. And basically this is, remember that shortcut I mentioned? If instead of going into settings and managing your extensions that way, you can actually add this extension. So if you just follow along with me, you click on the link, it takes you to the Chrome Web Store. Now again, you could, manually go through and start typing in Extensity and search it that way, but I've already linked them for you, so you might as well click it in the presentation link. And again, this is already added to my Chrome, but if it's not, you would say add to Chrome and click on that and allow them to access whatever they need. And then it's added to your Chrome. So you can see it's already added to my Chrome. So if I were to click on, click on Extensity, it now gives me this little drop down. And the purpose of Extensity is to allow you to quickly enable and disable Chrome extensions. So instead of having to go into that settings, you just simply click on whatever it is you're looking for. Sure, I want this extension enabled. And then now it's going to be enabled for me, right? This is also nice for me to be able to turn off extensions quickly. So it kind of gives me this running list of all the extensions I'm using. And it's nice because it sets it up alphabetically. So if I'm like, I know I have this extension, but for some reason I don't have it enabled, I just want to quickly, turn it on, go, and now it's added to my browser. So Extensity, again, just click on the extension, and that's usually how most of the extensions work. If you just click on it, it'll enable it. And you can go in and you can change some of the settings. So with any of the extensions, if you just right-click on the extension, you can click Remove from Chrome, Hide in Chrome in menu, or Manage Extensions, which takes you to that big page that I showed you before. Or if you click Options, that's when it's going to take you to sort of like the settings of that extension, such as this. So you can play around with the different settings within each extension, but this one is a nice quick way to turn on and turn off extensions without having to go through that big list. Okay. The next extension, this is called AdBlock. As you might imagine, it blocks unwanted advertisements and distractions. So if this is something that you want to enable, you just simply click on the link to the web store. You'd add it to your Chrome. I think you're probably all getting familiar with this. Right now it's telling me that I have disabled it in my Chrome and I can enable it, right? So I can either do it that way, or I can go to my Extensity and I could go to Ad Blocker and turn it on. And just so you know, if you have extensions that maybe you've had turned off and you recently turn them on, sometimes it will ask you to go through their permissions, like maybe they've updated things. So don't be alarmed if you're like, hey, I already added this, I already answered these questions. It might just be they've updated whatever they need to update, and they just need you to kind of give them permission again to access. All right, so that's another one. Okay, so the bit.ly shortener. I would imagine you're familiar with the shortened URL bit.ly. I would say that this is probably the extension that I use the most. I would say that pretty with confidence. This extension, and you can see it's my frequent flyer right here. It's pretty great because if I want to share out a URL with a group, and instead of sharing out this lengthy URL, right? Like, who wants to type that in? Or who wants to even paste that in an email? Like, that just isn't pretty. So I'll go to the attendance form. So I just simply, bring us back here. So I go to whatever page I'm trying to shorten the URL for, and I click the bit.ly link. And then it'll pop up and say, okay, this is, the shortened version of that link. And I can just simply say copy. So typically that's what I'll do, is I'll copy that and I'll throw it in an email or throw it in a presentation. But you'll notice, for example, that the bit.ly link that I gave you for today is this nice customized Google Chrome Apps Extensions 101 CC RESA, right? So I can actually go in and let me hop back to my form, and I can go in and I can, where it says customize, so the back half, so it has to be bit.ly / and then I can go in and I can change it to, I don't know, like attendance form CC RESA or whatever. And I can make it case sensitive. There just can't be any spaces. And if for some reason this was already taken, okay. And so I click save. If for some reason this was already taken, it would say this is, this customized bit.ly doesn't work. So it has now been updated to my customization. So I just, copy that, and then I can paste that in an email or in a presentation or whatever it is that I want. So bit.ly is a quick way to get that shortened URL, but also don't forget about that customization. That's really nice, especially when you're, instead of having to like maybe email a group, like here's the link to whatever, it's nice that people can just visually see it on your presentation or on the screen or whatever it is, and they can type it in and just make sure you tell them, it's case sensitive. So that is the bit.ly shortener. Probably my fave. All right, next. Save to drive. So this is a quick way of saving images, text, whatever it is, links out in the world on the internet that you want to save to your drive to use for later. So maybe you come across an image and you're like, oh, I really like this image, or I need it for a purpose, and I don't have time to deal with it right now, but I want to sort of almost like save it for later, bookmark it for later. Let me show you how this works. Oops. So I think I've got my sample little website up here. Yeah. All right, so I want to save this waterfall. I've added that extension to my Chrome. I right-click now, and you'll notice this Save to Google Drive option will now appear. So I can either save the link or the image. I click that, and it automatically saves it to Drive, and it's telling me what folder it's changed to, and I can even go in and change that. So I can change the destination. I can save the page as, there's lots of different features I can enable, but it's just a quick way to save an image, for example, into your drive, and then sometimes you'll have to refresh your drive to be able to see it, but you can go into your drive and you'll see the image right there in the folder you expect it to live in. So that's another one. Let's see. Event merge. This extension is a really nice one for folks that work with multiple calendars that maybe have some commonalities. So let's say you're looking at a calendar that and you have maybe a couple turned on, like maybe you have your own work calendar and then you want to look at your department calendar or maybe a colleague's calendar, see like how you could schedule something. So if, for example, let's say there's a staff meeting, you'll see that staff meeting on everybody's calendar, right? What event merge does is a common event will then kind of have these like sideways lines. It's saying, okay, all of those calendars, so this one actually has 1, 2, 3, 4 different calendars have that same event on their calendar. So instead of seeing that 4 different times all smushed together, it combines it and says, yep, this is the event, and like all of these calendars have that same event on it. So it kind of just condenses that visual for you. So let me see if I can't find, I'm sure there's something. So if I enable, yep, so yeah, so I'll show you this one. So my department calendar and my calendar both had Achievement Day on it yesterday. So if I were to look at it in the month view, it's probably not the best example. Or here's one, Memorial Day. You can see the little lines. So basically what it does is it combines multiple calendars or multiple events that are the same event, an event that's on multiple calendars together to clarify. So if you're working with multiple calendars, I highly encourage you to enable event merge. LastPass, a lot of people use this for managing their usernames and passwords for various sites. So there's a little bit of upfront setup to that, but if that's something that you are looking for a way to organize instead of having to remember it or write it down, LastPass might be for you. Google Tone, this is a fun one. If you enable Google Tone's extension, it allows you to share a URL with nearby computers that are also connected to the internet. So this might not be something that you're using right now remotely, but if you were working together in a meeting or with students and you want to quickly send them whatever website you're on or whatever link you have, you just simply click the broadcast this URL Google Tone button. I'm not sure if you could hear that, but okay, yeah, probably because I have a microphone on. But so basically it sends a little beep, 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 beep across or out loud, and so then the other computers within the range will pick it up and then pop up that that website for you. So yeah, kind of a fun way to quickly share the same URL. Mute tab. This one is helpful if you are like me and you have a million different tabs open and maybe something's running in the background with volume, a video or something like that. So if I were to say I'm playing Tech Tip Tuesday video, if I just click on this mute tab extension, you'll notice that it's still playing, but now it puts a line through it, so it's saying it's being muted. Okay, so fun way to mute whatever it is that you don't want to hear without having to like close it out or mute the entire all the tabs. So it's just individual tabs. And the next one is Grammarly. This one's very slick. It's a nice way to check spelling and grammar. And it works within the web, but also even works within like Google Forms. And you'll notice anytime you are, let me go to here we go. anytime you're typing, so let's say if I was going to change that. Yeah, you can see the little Grammarly working. So if I'm not going to change this, but if I type in something that's, you know, misspelled or imperfect grammar, it will give me a little underline, and I can right click and adjust things. So I'll show you a sample. And then, so, you know, you can actually ignore things, you can add to dictionary, and you can, there's a bunch of other features, but it's a very quick way to catch spelling grammar issues. And it's nice that it works within Google Apps as well. So that is Grammarly. Share to Classroom. So if you're using Google Classroom, it's a fun way to quickly push whatever website you want to your Google class or multiple Google classes. So it kind of like pops up like in their face. So if they're working and you want everybody to be on the same page at the same time, if you use this Share to Classroom feature. So for example, I click Share to Classroom, and then it's going to say, okay, which classes do you want to push this to? And I don't know which one I want to push to. Oh, this is an old one. And then I can, you know, so it's picking up this URL, the presentation, right? And I can say push to students, or I can even like build out even further. Instead of just sending it, I can actually create an assignment within this or an announcement. And then when I say push, it's going to like literally push out this website to the students within your Google Classroom. So nice, quick shortcut. Okay. So those were the main extensions I have for efficiency, and those are not the end-all be-all extensions for efficiency. There's lots more, but I just wanted to showcase just a couple different features that might be helpful before I get into accessibility. Okay, so I've got a handful of these, and I would bet that maybe some of you even have some recommendations for extensions for accessibility, so I'd love to hear them as well. Or maybe you've heard of many of these, but I feel like Read and Write is probably the most catch-all extension for accessibility. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I have been told that a lot of their features that used to be, because they're a freemium, a lot of their features that used to be paid have been enabled, and I think it's because of the time we're living in right now. But I was playing around with it the other day, and I noticed that some tools that I used to not be able to have access to, I now have access to. So the nicest one, I think, is just the reading the text out loud, and like you can follow along with it. And they also have like a translation tool and lots of great resources for not just students who need specific supports, but for any student who wants to have you know, more of these types of literacy features enabled on their texts online. So let's see, I've got a little sample website here on waterfalls. Okay, so if I click on my Read and Write, and this little bar comes down, and let's say I want it to read the text aloud, so I can highlight, I can click play. So pause. Okay, so what's nice is it highlights the text, but also obviously, as you can see, like as it's reading it, it's highlighting the word it's on. So really great to help kids follow along. And yeah, so, and again, there's tons of other features that you can play around with, but I would imagine most of you are probably at least familiar with this one, but play around with some of the different tools and let me know if there's anything that is definitely worth mentioning, and I'll push out more of those features. All right. Reading ruler. This one is also useful. So if you're reading like lots of texts, I guess it's supposed to be good for dyslexic readers, helps them like kind of stay in line. It's basically like a ruler that keeps them, reading across in a line and keeping their place on the page. So, and I think there's a couple different options or like reading rulers out there. So this is just one that I found. Mercury Reader. This one basically cleans up any sort of text online that might have all those ads and all that stuff. So I think I may have already enabled this, but if I were to click the Mercury, yeah, it just cleans up. It actually wasn't that bad to begin with, but sometimes you'll find websites that have all different kinds of stuff on it. And if you click that Mercury button, it cleans up the website and removes any sort of distractions and just helps things become a little bit more cleaner to read. So that one's called Mercury Reader. Mote. This is my new favorite extension that I have recently come across. It allows you to basically create voice comments within Google Docs, Slides, and Sheets, and it's very slick. The Google voice really picks up, like the dictation feature really picks up. It's pretty accurate, but I actually just did a Tech Tip Tuesday video on this particular extension last Tuesday. So if you want like a little bit more detailed explanation of how it works, but if I were to go to, let me just open up the Google Docs so I can just show you really quickly. So this is great for like student feedback. If you're wanting to, especially in the times right now where we're wanting to give feedback, we're wanting to teach, we're wanting to communicate, we're trying to support our students. And it's really helpful or positive for students to actually hear those voices from their teachers and everybody else. So this is kind of a nice way to give individualized feedback that's not just an email or written. So you just simply highlight whatever it is in the Google Doc, for example, and then you add a comment. So you can click here or up here to add a comment. And once the extension is enabled, you'll notice this little purple Mote icon. And if you click it, then you can start recording and it picks up pretty accurately what you're saying. And it also gives you a link to be able to access the voice notes. So let's say you're wanting to share this feedback with someone who doesn't have the extension. You just send them this link and they can still see the feedback. Yep, so it says I left a voice note, and I can either play it or I can read the actual dictation or the transcription. So if I were to say comment, now I can play it, or if for some reason it made a mistake, I can click edit and I can actually fix the transcription. And so, students or colleagues even could go back in and reply to the voice comments, and they could, leave a voice comment themselves. So it's not just for, student-teacher interaction. This could be really powerful for any sort of collaboration within a Google Docs slide or sheet. So lots of cool stuff with Mote. Let's pop back in. Open Dyslexic. This is a nice feature to increase readability for readers with dyslexia. So let's go to my text here, and I click my little Open Dyslexic icon, and I enable it. And I can change the fonts however I want. And you'll notice in the background it's changing it to fonts that are more suitable for readers with dyslexia. So very quick and easy, Open Dyslexic. And the last extension I'm going to show you today is called Google Translate. And this is another extension that allows you to take the text within a page and alter it in some way. So in this case, I can go back to that text. We'll turn this off real quick. I can click Google Translate, and I can either literally type in, so let's say something German. Translate it, right? And you can even play it. Or I can say translate this page. And what's nice is once I do that, I can select the drop down and I can pick the language that I want it to be translated to. Yeah, very cool. So Google Translate, awesome tool for language teachers, or if you have ESL students, really great extension. Okay, so that's my list of extensions for accessibility. Obviously not the end-all be-all list by any means, but that is a couple highlights for extensions. So I'm going to jump to the chat box in a second and address any questions, but before you leave, make sure you fill out the attendance form, and we have a session next week that's Google Drive Tips and Tricks for Efficiency on June 3rd at 11 o'clock, and that'll be kind of like a part 2 of the Google Drive 101, but for a little bit more advanced topics and just some quick little tips for making things quicker and easier. And I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.